Executive Branch, Article 7 of the 1987 Constitution. Section 1. The executive power shall be vested in the President of the Philippines. Okay? Very clear. Sa presidente lang ng Pilipinas ang executive power. So, technically, when you say executive power, ito yung nag-i-implement ng law. Pero the question is, dun lang ba confined ang powers ng presidente? So, hindi. Hindi lang pag-i-implement ng batas. Marami pa. And it's all enumerated sa buong Article 7 ng ating 1987 Constitution. Section 2. No person may be elected president unless he is a natural-born citizen of the Philippines. Okay? So, sinasabi natin dito ulit, dapat natural-born, hindi naturalized. A registered voter. Siyempre, hindi pa pwedeng hindi siya registered voter. Able to read and write. And this is very, very common sa tatlong pinag-uusapan natin. That includes the congressmen and the senators and yung president. Ang sinasabi lang, registered voter at saka able to read and write. Hindi kailangan may pinag-aralan. Basta ikaw ay read and write at least 40 years of age on the day of the election. 40 years of age on the day of the election. Hindi dapat 39, kung hindi 40. So kung ang pagdating ng election, halimbawa election, ano ka pa lang, 39. Magko-40 ka pa lang sa June 1. Kasi election usually second Monday. Hindi pa pwede. Dapat 40 years old ka. And a resident of the Philippines for at least 10 years immediately preceding such election. Okay? Sa senators 2, sa congressmen, 1 taon na residente sa distrito. Section 3. There shall be a vice president who shall have the same qualifications and term of office and be elected with and in the same manner as the president. He may be removed from office in the same manner as the president. The vice president may be appointed as a member of the cabinet. Such appointment requires no confirmation. So, ang qualification class ng vice president, pareho lang ng ating presidente. At pwede siyang tanggalin, gaya ng pagtanggal sa ating presidente. Class, yung vice president natin, aside from being vice president, pwede siyang ma-appoint sa any cabinet, kahit na anong mapili, kagaya ng ating kasalukuyang vice-presidente na si Sara Duterte. Class, she is the Secretary of Education. Remember, yung commission appointments, hindi na kailangan yon pag ang vice president ang i-appoint ng presidente bilang secretary or miyembro ng kanyang gabinete. Okay? So, wala nang kailangan confirmation. Number 4, Section 4, the President and the Vice President shall be elected by direct vote of the people for a term of 6 years, which shall begin at noon on the 30th day of June, next following the day of the election, and shall end at noon of the same date, 6 years thereafter. The President shall not be eligible for any re-election. No person who has succeeded as President and has served as such for more than 4 years shall be qualified for election to the same office at any time. Explain ko to, class, kasi may mga sitwasyon tayong ganyan. Class, ang term ng presidente ay 6 years. Handaan niya na, 1 term lang. Ang years of service, 6 years. 1 term, 6 years. However, class, yung pag-upo niya, syempre pag-upo niya ng June 30, mag-e-end June 30 after 6 years. Kasi 6 years nga lang. Nasabi rito, class, the president shall not be eligible for re-election. Ano ibig sabihin na re-election, class? Hindi na siya pwedeng kumandidato bilang pagka-presidente. Paano kung kumandidato siya bilang mayor? Pwede ba yon? Class, The answer to that question is already moot and academic and nasagot na siya nung si Presidente Erap Estrada ay kumandidato bilang mayor ng City of Manila. So, from Presidente, naging mayor ng City of Manila ang ating dating Pangulo. Paano kung yung Presidente tumakbong congressman? Pwede ba yon? Again, class, nasagot na yan. Nung ang dating Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo, pagkatapos ng kanyang termino bilang Presidente ng Pilipinas, siya ay naging congressman ng 2nd District ng Province of Pampanga. So, pwede. Hindi lang ang ibig sabihin ng re-election class ay hindi siya pwedeng maging presidente ulit. Okay? So, class, tandaan nyo ha, kita mo yung English ng mga batas natin, medyo nakakalito. Okay? Now, yung nangyari kay Erap, third sentence, no person has succeeded as president has served as such for more than 4 years shall be qualified for election to the same office at any time. Class, yung kay Erap, umupo si GMA less than 4 years. Okay, less than 4 years. Kasi naka 2 years na umupo si Erap bago nagkaroon ng impeachment, bago siya sinabing nag-resign. Kasi ang interpretation ng Supreme Court class dun sa nangyari kay Erap ay resignation, hindi siya impeachment. Merong impeachment process pero hindi siya na-impeach dahil hindi natapos ang kanyang impeachment process. Yung pagtanggal. Okay? Mamaya, ma-explain ko isa-isa. Class. So, what happened with GMA, kaya siya itong nakatakbong presidente because less than 4 years. Kaya technically speaking, si GMA ang pinakamahabang umupong presidente ng Pilipinas. Almost 9 years siyang umupo na presidente ng Pilipinas. Kasi 3 years nung pumalit siya kay Erap, dahil succession, dahil nawala si Erap na presidente, GMA sat as the president of the country, the 14th president, dahil by a succession. Dahil siya nag-succeed bilang vice presidente, naging presidente siya. Tapos noon, kumandidato na siyang presidente. Okay? No vice president shall serve more than 2 successive terms. Okay? Voluntary renunciation of the office for any length of time shall not be considered as an interruption in the continuity of the service for the full term for which he was elected. So, pareho rin. So, ang voluntary renounce, pag nag-voluntary renounce ka, ibig sabihin ng class, hindi ka na pa rin pwedeng kumandidato ulit. Okay? Kasi, hindi considered yun. It will be considered another term. Kasi ang vice presidente class, 2 terms. Okay? Allowed. Di gaya ng presidente, isa lang. Unless otherwise provided by law, the regular election for president and vice president shall be held on the 2nd Monday of May. Pareho lang ng ating Congress. Kaya kung mapapansin nyo, class, sabay ng sabay yun. Siyempre, kasama na rin doon, mas nakakatipid. The returns of every election for President and Vice President duly certified by the Board of Canvassers of each province or city shall be transmitted to the Congress, directed to the President of the Senate. Upon the receipt of the certificates of canvass, the President of the Senate shall, not later than 30 days after the day of the election, open all the certificates in the presence of the Senate and the House of Representatives in joint public session. And the Congress, upon determination of the authenticity and due execution thereof in the manner provided by law, canvass the votes. The person having the highest number of votes shall be proclaimed elected, but in case 2 or more shall have an equal or highest number of votes, one of them shall forthwith be chosen by the vote of the majority of all the members of both houses of the Congress voting separately. The Congress shall promulgate its rules for the canvassing of the certificates. Supreme Court sitting en banc. Ibig sabihin ng sitting en banc, lahat class, all 15 judges should sit. Kasi class, ang Supreme Court, by division kasi nagka-function yan. Okay, pwedeng 3, 5, 7. So, nagka-function siya ng tatluhan, limahan. So, ngayon, pag sinabi mo en banc, dapat lahat sila uupo. And it shall be the sole judge of the contests relating of all contests relating to the election, returns and qualifications of the president or vice president, and may promulgate its rules for the purpose. Okay. Class, ano lang to? Procedure. Ang importante yung tatandaan dito, class, is that pag nag-tie ang botohan ng presidente, anong gagawin? O, yun, magbobotohan sa Congress na. Sila ang boboto kung sino ang iboboto nilang presidente. Section 5, before they enter on the execution of their office, the president, the vice president, or the acting president shall take the following oath or affirmation. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will faithfully and conscientiously fulfill my duties as President of the Philippines, preserve and defend its Constitution, execute its laws, do justice to every man, and consecrate myself to the service of the nation, so help me God. So, umpisa ng I, sana, Mark Edmond C. Navarro, do solemnly swear. Okay? This is an oath, class. This is very, very important. And the fact that it's written in our Constitution, it's very important that the elected president should take the oath. Okay? Kasi, pag hindi siya sumunod sa oath niya, pwede siyang kasuhan. Okay? Section 6. The president shall have an official residence, which is, anong official residence ng presidente ng Pilipinas? Of course, Malacanang. The salaries of the president and vice president shall be determined by law and shall not be decreased during their tenure. Hindi pa pwedeng babawaan habang nakaupo si BBM. No increase in said compensation shall take effect until the expiration of the term of the incumbent, during which such increase was approved. They shall not receive their tenure any other emolument from the government or any other source. So, sweldo lang talaga sila. Okay? Sweldo lang talaga ang presidente ng Pilipinas. Dapat. Now, what else? Ano pang importante rito sa provision na to, class? Yung sinasabi natin na hindi pa pwedeng babaan habang nakaupo siya, or lalong-lalo na hindi siya pwedeng taasan. Kung tataasan nila, pwede nang taasan, pero para sa susunod na presidente na yun. Okay? Section 7, the president-elect and the vice president-elect shall assume office at the beginning of their terms. Ano yung araw na yon? June 30. 12 o'clock. If the president-elect fails to qualify, ito na yung succession. The vice president-elect shall act as president until the president-elect shall have qualified. If a president shall not have been chosen, the vice president-elect shall act as president until a president shall have been chosen and qualified. If at the beginning of the term of the president-elect shall have died and shall have become permanently disabled, the vice president-elect shall become president. Of course, class, these situations are all self-explanatory. Where no president and vice president shall have been chosen, or shall have qualified, or where both shall have died or become permanently disabled, the President of the Senate, or in case of his inability, the Speaker of the House, shall act as president until a president or vice president shall have been chosen or qualified. The Congress shall by law provide for the manner in which one who is to act as president shall be selected until a president or vice president shall have qualified. In case of death, permanent disability or inability of the officials mentioned in the next preceding paragraph. Okay? Class, sinasabi lang naman dito, class. Pag during the election, tanda, hindi pa napipili, hindi pa qualified. So, sino yung mga order of succession? Pag walang vice president, yung president of the Senate. Pag wala pa rin, speaker of the House. Until ma-qualify na or mapili na. Okay? Section 8. Ito na yun, yung nangyari kay Presidente Erap Estrada. Section 8, in case of death, permanent disability, removal from office, or resignation of the President, the Vice President shall become the President to serve the unexpired term. In case of death, permanent disability, removal from office, or resignation, both the President and the Vice President, the President of the Senate, or in case of his inability, the Speaker of the House, shall then act as President until the President or Vice President shall have been elected and qualified. The Congress shall pass by law provide who shall serve as the President in case of death, permanent disability, or resignation of the acting President. He shall serve until the President or Vice President shall have been elected and qualified and be subject to the same restrictions of the powers and disqualifications as the acting president. Class, nangyari na tong case na to, tong section 8 na to. Ano yung causes kung paano matatanggal ang presidente? Permanent disability, removal from office, resignation. According to the case decided by the Supreme Court, class, si Erap ay nag-resign dahil sa kanyang collective acts. Sabi siya, nag-resign, umalis siya sa opisina, sumulat siya na siya ay pagod na. So, in-interpret ng Supreme Court na si Erap ay nag-resign. So, kung si Erap ay nag-resign nung time na yon, sino naging presidente? Si GMA, dahil siya ang vice president. So, ngayon, ano pang senaryo nangyari doon? Si Speaker, si GMA na maging presidente, na bakante ang vice president. So ngayon, kung nabakante ang vice president, sino dapat upo? Speaker of the House. Speaker of the Senate President muna pala, bago Speaker of the House. So sino ang presidente noong time na yon? Si Chufisto Gingona. Speaker Gingona ang naging vice president. Whenever there is a vacancy in the office of the Vice President during the term, the President shall nominate among the members of the Senate and who shall assume office upon confirmation by a majority of all the members of both houses of the Congress voting separately. So ito yung sinasabi ko, class, ay nangyari kay Chufisto Gingona. Dinominate siya ni GMA. Hindi siya speaker, class. I stand corrected. I'm sorry. Hindi siya Speaker of the House. Siya ay pinili among the senators. So, siya ang naging Vice President. Siya ay napili ni Gloria. So, inapprove ito ng majority vote of all members of both houses. Okay? Section 10. The Congress shall at 10 o'clock in the morning of the third day after the vacancy in the offices of the President and Vice President occurs, convene in accordance with its rules without need of a call, and within 7 days enact a law calling for a special election to elect a president and a vice president to be held not earlier than 45 days, nor later than 60 days from the time of such call. The bill calling such special election shall be deemed certified under paragraph 2, section 26, Article 6 of this Constitution, and shall become law. in its approval on the third reading by the Congress. Appropriations for special elections shall be charged against any current appropriations and shall be exempt from requirements of Paragraph 4, Section 25, Article 6 of this Constitution. The convening of the Congress cannot be suspended nor the special election postponed. No special election shall be called if the vacancy occurs within 18 months before the date of the next presidential election. Kung natitira na lang, class, ang importante rito sa provision na to, sir, class, kung natitira na lang ay 18 months bago mag-presidential election, hindi na mag-special election. Succession na yung ating gagamitin. Okay? Siya yung upo, hindi na kailangan mag-special election. 18 months, magic number. Section 11, whenever the President transmits to the President of the Senate and the Speaker of the House his written declaration of his unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office, until he transmits to them a written declaration to the contrary, such powers and duties shall be discharged by the Vice President as acting President. So, kailangan lang masumulat ang Presidente sa Senate na hindi na siya Senate and Speaker of the House na hindi niya na kaya magtrabaho as Presidente. Whenever a majority of all the members of the Cabinet transmit to the President of the Senate and to the Speaker of the House of Representatives a written declaration that the President is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office, then the Vice President shall immediately assume the powers and duties of the office as acting President. Ito lang, class, yung mode of yung part na hindi na makakapag-discharge ang Presidente ng kanyang trabaho. So, it's either the President who will write the Senate President or the Speaker of the House siyang susulat. Or kung hindi siya susulat at matigas ang ulo niya, pwede yung mga cabinet secretary niya. Kasi remember, class, alter ego niya ang kanyang mga secretary. Okay? Thereafter, when the President transmits to the President of the Senate and to the Speaker of the House his written declaration that no inability exists, he shall reassume the powers and duties of his office. Meanwhile, the majority of all the members of the Cabinet transmit within 5 days to the President of the Senate, the Speaker of the House, their written declaration that the President is unable to discharge the powers from his duties, the Congress shall decide the issue for that purpose. The Congress shall convene if it is not in session within 48 hours. If the Congress within 10 days after receipt of the last written declaration, if not in session within 12 days after the Assembly, determines by 2/3 vote of both houses voting separately, the President is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office, the Vice President shall act as President. Otherwise, the President shall continue exercising the powers and duties of his office. Ito, class, tung paragraph na to, sinasabi lang, sabi ng Presidente, kaya ko na magtrabaho. Kaya ko na maging Presidente ulit. Kumukontra yung department secretary. Ano mga secretary? Mga different departments. Sabi, hindi niya pa kaya. So ngayon, sasabit na ngayon to sa Congress, sa House of Senate, saka sa Congress. Sila na ngayon ang magdi-decide. Okay? Section 12, in case of serious illness of the President, the public shall be informed of the state of his health. The members of the Cabinet in charge of National Security and Foreign Relations and Chief of Staff of the Armed Forces of the Philippines shall not be denied access to the President during such illness. Class, may sakit ang Presidente. Di makapagtrabaho. So, dapat sumulat na siya. Kung hindi siya sumusulat, eto na yun, class. Para ma-check ng members of the Cabinet kung kaya pang mag-discharge ng functions sa Presidente, lalong-lalo na yung National Security and Foreign Relation and Chief of Staff ng Armed Forces. Mag-uusap-usap yan. Kaya pa ba o hindi na? Because regardless of his sickness, kailangan alam ng mga taong ito kung anong status ng presidente. Section 13. The President, Vice President, the members of the Cabinet, and their deputies or assistants shall not, unless otherwise provided in this Constitution, hold any other office or employment during their tenure. They shall not, during said tenure, directly or indirectly practice any other profession, participate in any business, or be financially interested in any contract with, or in any franchise or special privilege granted by the government or subdivision, agency, or instrumentality thereof, including government-owned or controlled corporation or their subsidiaries. They shall strictly avoid conflict of interest in the conduct of their office. The spouse and relatives by consanguinity or affinity within the fourth civil degree of the President shall not, during his tenure, be appointed as members of the constitutional commissions or the office of the ombudsman or secretaries, undersecretaries, chairmen, or heads of the bureaus or offices, including government-owned and controlled corporations and their subsidiaries. Class, this is very, very important, ha? Tandaan nyo. Okay? So, hindi pa pwede yung mga cabinet members, vice presidente, presidente, their deputy assistants, na merong ibang hinahawakan or multiple offices kasi kailangan sila mag-focus. Class, ang history kasi nito, class, nung panahon ng Marcos, class, isang secretary, minsan 3-4 ang hawak. Sabi nung panahon ni, alam ko, ito yung panahon ng Marcos, class. So, binabawalan kasi yung mga multiple offices. Dati kasi pag member ka ng cabinet, kung saan-saan ka pa miyembro ng trabaho eh. So, namomonopolize yung mga trabaho. Okay? And the last paragraph, importante, class. So, ang asawa at ang relatives ng presidente, hindi pwede. Hindi pwede. Okay? Na ma-appoint kahit sa anong posisyon. Basta fourth degree of consanguinity or affinity. So, dapat bilangin kung paano umaabot ng fourth degree. Bigyan ko kayo ng example. Ang kapatid nyo, first degree. Ang first cousin yung nalalaman, third degree na yun, class. Kasi, itingnan nyo yung point of reference. Class, you have to remind me so I can discuss this in class, yung affinity at saka consanguinity. Because this is important for you to understand. Fourth civil degree. Section 14, appointments extended by an acting president shall remain effective unless revoked by the elected president within 90 days from his assumption or resumption of office. So, pwede naman ang extended appointments. Pero, class, pag may umupong presidente, pwede niya i-revoke ito. Okay? 2 months immediately before the next presidential election and up to the end of his term, the president or acting president shall not make any appointments. Okay? To executive positions when continued vacancies therein will prejudice public service or endanger public safety. Okay? Bago matapos ang election, class, hindi pa pwedeng mag-appoint ang ating presidente sa mga posisyong matataas. Bawal yun. Okay? Bawal yun, class. Except, pwede sila mag-appoint kung ito ay temporary lang yung appointments and dapat may prejudice sa public service or public safety. So, technically, hindi pa pwede, class. Hindi pa pwede. So, dapat kaya dapat ito, class, ano sila, yung hindi kasama, sila lang. Okay? Section 16, the President shall nominate and with the consent of the Commission on Appointments. Yan, ito yung sinasabi ko, class. na kailangan yung presidente pipili, meron siyang consent na kukunin sa Commission on Appointments. Ano yung mga yon? Heads of the executive departments. O, yan yung mga Department of Local Government, Department of Health, Department of Education. Next, ambassadors. Yung mga galing sa ibang bansa. Other public ministers and consuls or officers of the armed forces from the rank of colonel or naval captain and other officers whose appointments are vested in him in the Constitution. Okay? So, yun lang yun. Number 1, heads of the executive departments. Number 2, the ambassadors. Number 3, officers of the armed forces from the rank of colonel, naval captain, and other officers whose appointments are vested in him in this Constitution. Okay? Marami kasi yun. He shall also appoint all other officers of the government whose appointments are not otherwise provided by law. So in terms of appointment class, plenary ang powers ng presidente. So kung hindi man nakasulat dito pero sinasabi ng mga batas na nagawa, siyang pipili, wala tayong choice. Siya talaga ang pipili. Okay? The Congress may by law vest the appointment of the other officers lower in rank in the President alone. In the courts or in the heads of department, agencies, commission, and boards, the President shall have the power to make appointments during the recess of the Congress, whether voluntary or compulsory, but such appointments shall be effective only until disapproved by the Commission on Appointments or until the next adjournment of the Congress. Okay? O, sige, class. Ito naman, ang sinasabi lang dito naman, class, is yung appointment. Okay? Paano ba yung appointment? Sino bang pinalagay ng presidente? Okay? So, presidente ang magsasabi, plus, of course, consent ng Commission on Appointments. 17. The President shall have the control of all the executive departments, bureaus, and offices. He shall ensure that the laws are faithfully implemented or executed. Okay? So, lahat ng department, presidente lang ang may control. 18. The President shall have ay isa sa mga powers ng presidente. The President shall be the Commander-in-Chief of all armed forces of the Philippines. And whenever it becomes necessary, he may call out such armed forces to prevent or suppress lawless violence, invasion, or rebellion. Case of invasion or rebellion, when the public safety requires it, he may, for a period not exceeding 60 days, suspend the privilege of the writ of habeas corpus, or place the Philippines or any part thereof or under martial law. Okay? Within 48 hours from the proclamation of martial law or the suspension of the privilege of the writ of habeas corpus, the President shall submit a report in person or in writing to the Congress. The Congress voting jointly by a vote of at least majority of all its members in a regular or special session, may revoke such proclamation or suspension, which revocation shall not be set aside by the President. Upon initiative of the President, the Congress may, in the same manner, extend such proclamation or suspension for a period to be determined by the Congress if the invasion, rebellion persists and public safety requires it. Class, ano naman importansya nitong Section 18? This is very, very important, class, kasi it's an additional power provided for the government by the Constitution. Kanina, executive power ang pinag-uusapan natin. But this time, class, ang presidente pa rin ang commander-in-chief. Diba? Tatandaan nyo sa natin? State policies and principles. Sinong head? Presidente ng Armed Forces of the Philippines. So ngayon, siya talaga ang head based on the Constitution, commander-in-chief. Okay? Pag meron bang gulo, may gera, dapat ba mag-declare na ang Pangulo ng martial law? The answer is no. Aalamin niya muna Kasi hindi lang naman yun. Dapat merong present ng violence or invasion. Tapos, kailangan public safety requires it. O, naiipit na or si pinaka-close sa kanya, nasa mall, nagkakagulo. Kailangan niya mag-flex ng muscle dahil siya ang presidente. Ano ba ang privilege of habeas corpus? The privilege of the writ of habeas corpus. When we speak of the writ of habeas corpus class, kung narinig yung mga nawawala na bata o na estudyante nasa UP, di ba, class, na may nawawala na isang tao. So, ang gagawin class ng nanay, pupunta sa korte at gagawa ng sulat, yung writ of habeas corpus, at sasabihin na ilabas niyo yung anak ko. Kung kanino man niya ide-direct yun, kung kanino man niya isusulatan yun, pwede yun, class. Maraming nangyayari sa atin, lalo na yung mga nawawalang mga estudyante ng UP. So, pupunta sila sa isang police na feeling nila yun. So, gagawa sila ng writ of habeas corpus. Yun ang palalabasin. Para lumabas, para i-produce mo yung taong yun. Dahil ikaw ang huling kasama. Dapat ilabas mo yun. Okay, yun yung tinatawag na writ of habeas corpus. So, yung privilege niya yung class, kahit merong kaguluhan, hindi mawawala yun. Okay? Privilege yun ng bawat tao. Pwede mo lang tanggalin yun pag may rebellion or invasion. You can remove or you can cancel the privilege of the writ of habeas corpus kung merong invasion or rebellion at, class, tandaan nyo, at public safety requires it at hindi dapat lalagpas ng 60 days. Okay? Ganun ka-importante ang ating privilege of writ of habeas corpus. The Congress, if not in session, shall within 24 hours following such proclamation or suspension continue in accordance with its rules without need of a call. The Supreme Court may review in any appropriate proceeding. Kaya nga, andyan ang Supreme Court para tignan at tanungin. Filed by any citizen sufficiency of the factual basis of the proclamation of martial law or the suspension of privilege of the writ of habeas corpus or kung hingi ng extension. Okay? What else? The state of martial law does not suspend the operation of the Constitution nor supplant the functioning of the civil courts or legislative assemblies, nor authorize the conferment of the jurisprudence on military courts and agencies. Automatically suspend the privilege of the writ of habeas corpus. Class. Okay. Ang declaration class, ang martial law class, kasi it's more on the, ako magsusunod. Okay? Walang batas-batas sa akin. Pero ngayon, class, because of this, dahil nadala na ang mga Pilipino, nilagay na sa Constitution to, class. Nadala na kasi nung panahon, nung unang panahon. Simula 1972, when martial law was declared, ako ang batas. Okay? So, ganun kalalim yun. Kaya lang, binabalik nila to ngayon. So, again, it's up to you, class. If you're going to vote for no or yes. The suspension of the privilege of the writ of habeas corpus shall only apply to persons judicially charged for rebellion or offenses or directly connected to invasion. Okay? Sinasabi lang, pag may invasion, hindi pwedeng tanggalin. Judicially charged within 3 days, otherwise shall be released. Self-explanatory. Section 19, except in cases of impeachment or otherwise provided in this Constitution, the President may grant reprieves, commutation, and pardons, and remit fines and forfeitures after conviction by final judgment. He shall also have the power to grant amnesty with the concurrence of the majority of all members of the Congress. Class, ano naman ang ibig sabihin ito? Lahat pwede gawin ng presidente sa mga bilanggo o kung ano man except yung privilege na hawak ko. Anong ginagawa? Halimbawa, ikaw ay nagkasala. Remember the Maggie de la the Maggie de la Riva story. Okay, yung rape. 4 ang ng rape, puro big time. Okay? So, ibibitayin na sila. So, nung bago sila bitayin, nakikiusap na yung mga magulang kay Imelda Marcos. Kasi big time eh. O, sila kinausap ni Madam Imelda si then Presidente Marcos na sabi niya, sabi ni Imelda, pakikiusap. Pero hindi pumayag si Imelda. Hindi lang nabitay. Pero sila ay nasa kulungan pa rin hanggang sa tumanda na dahil sa kasong rape. Kasi presidente lang class ang pwedeng mag-grant ng reprieves, ng commutation, pardons, and remittance ng fines. So, ganun ka-powerful ang ating presidente. Okay? Pero pag impeachment, kasi hindi naman removal of office yun. Impeachment is a procedure wherein tinatanggal ang ating mga nakaupo doon. Okay? Next, he shall also have the power to grant amnesty with the concurrence of the majority of the members of the Congress. Okay? So, pwede siya magbigay ng amnesty. Next, the President may contract or guarantee foreign loans on behalf of the Republic of the Philippines with the prior concurrence of the Monetary Board and subject to such limitations as may be provided by law. The Monetary Board shall within 30 days from the end of every quarter of the calendar year shall submit to the Congress a complete report of its decision on applications for loan to be contracted or guaranteed by the government or government-owned and controlled corporation, which would have the effect of increasing the foreign debt, continuing matters as may be provided by law. Talagang taas, pag nangungutang tayo, dapat may garansya ng presidente natin. Yun lang pinaka-ibig sabihin yung part na yan ng ating provision. Okay? Section 21, no treaty or international agreement shall be valid and effective unless concurred by at least 2/3 of all members of the Senate. Pag may pinasok class na treaty or international agreement ang ating presidente, dapat isasubmit niya ito sa Senate for their approval. Dapat 2/3 ang boto. Okay? So, importante rin yung class ha, hindi porket presidente ka, pwede ka nang pumasok sa treaty or international agreement na ikaw lang. So, dapat yan, lahat yan, class. Okay? Section 22, the President shall submit to the Congress within 30 days from the opening of every regular session as the basis of the General Appropriations Bill, a budget of expenditures and sources of financing, including receipts from existing and proposed revenue matters. Gaya nga ng sabi ko dun sa legislative, pag general appropriation, syempre nagagaling sa presidente yan, tapos ina-approve. So, kung magkano yung sinabi ng presidente na kanyang hinihingi, dapat yun complete staff work class. Okay? For him to understand or for the Congress to understand saan ba napupunta yung pera. Section 23, the President shall address the Congress at the opening of its regular session. He may also appear before it at any time. Okay? Wala naman yan, class. Self-explanatory. So, class, that ends for my lecture ng ating executive department. Thank you for listening. Study well. And of course, again, message me for questions. And don't forget, study, pray, love. Thank you.